Go with another CRT isn't real story. Wisconsin school district claims white students can't face discrimination. And I'm going to fill in the blank without actually reading the article yet. I'm going to assume it, but we're going to read it together. Is that because white people have the power in the country, therefore, even if they're discriminated against, racially abused, there's still a power dynamic, and therefore they're not actually facing discrimination, because in the end they can get whatever they want, blah, blah, blah. A Wisconsin school district officially is facing backlash for a white student was not entitled to protection under the anti-discrimination law. Tanya Fredrich, the assistant superintendent of Milwaukee-area Elmbrook Schools, rejected a claim that last year from a white student's parent that their child had faced discrimination on account of his race. The assistant superintendent justified the rejection by claiming that the student did not belong to a class protected by anti-discrimination law. That's right. That's right, you stupid white people. You don't belong to a class that is protected by anti-discrimination law. That is only for POCs. And you're not one of them. Therefore, you can be as racially as abused as possible or discriminated as much as possible because you're white. When I thought we were about equality, and I thought it was about unity, and I thought it was about the melting pot of America, the left doesn't want that. In fact, they are pushing for segregation, like we saw all last year with black-only graduations in places like Oregon, Washington, constant groups with black-only students, or safety rooms for POC students. They're constantly pushing for segregation. It's like the silliest thing ever. When people push back and say, this is critical race theory, and they're like, that's just oh, silly white people. That's just a thing that students are taught in law school. And you're like, no, this is it right here. The oppressor, the oppressed, you can discriminate. There's no such thing as reverse racism, even though that's still racism. So the student is not a member of any class that is legally protected from discrimination by state or federal law, Friedrich said in a statement to a news outlet, which is like the most insane statement. Imagine saying that about any other race. Oh yeah, that Asian hate standing up against Asian hate. It's okay because they're one of the most welcomed into colleges, so therefore they can't be discriminated against. It's like Harvard saying no to Asian people because of how well they place on their SATs. The child's parents had claimed that the district was neglecting the necessary mental health assistance needed by their child and was deliberately prioritizing non-white students and students from low-income families, which is funny because some of the poorest people in America are white, but, it's a power thing. So it's on you, even though your family is addicted to meth and your industry in which your parents worked is completely taken away and put into another country. The student's race, sexual orientation, and social economic status are what are considered to be the majority status and thus do not have a basis for claiming that the student is being treated or has been treated less favorably than a person not in a protected class, Friedrich told the students' parents, which is so crazy. Because again, as I always talk about before, my kids, saying my kids have a better grasp and a better way in which to grow in America to be more successful compared to Kanye West's kid, LeBron James's kid, Colin Kaepernick's kids. To say that my kids have a better chance at succeeding in America is the stupidest concept in the world. I would say, there is privilege in the world, sure, but the privilege comes with usually social economic status more than just race. It's you can be the richest black person in the world and you're you should still be welcome into this university, not based on your grades, but because of affirmative action. And it's crazy that people will hear me talking and they're like, wow, that is so racist. I'm like, no, you're the one being racist. The district stance was blasted as legally and factually wrong by the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty, which is good to see, which recently wrote a letter to the district superintendent, Mark Hansen, and said that it was shocking that a public education institute could hold such a view. Yeah, very shocking. But again, not shocking, as we're constantly seeing CRT pushed all the time, especially by academic institutions, especially by schools, especially by people on the left who work majority in our schools, public school systems. Because I worked in public education a long time. Majority of those people there are liberal. It's just, I wish conservatives would actually start caring about education and want to press into schools and make a difference in students' lives. But, conservatives are more bent to one direction than the other, and that's okay too. But you're seeing a direct result of why that happens. He goes on to say, there's no such thing as a protected class in the sense that there are some races are protected while others are not. The letter read, Black and brown students do not have different rights. They have identical rights to white students and must be treated identically to white students. I wish that was the case. I wish we just treated everyone the same, There is certainly nothing in the law concerning a diminished set of rights for those within the majority status. In response sent to March 10th, the district said that the institute had taken Fredrich's comments out of context. Of course, anytime people get pushback in life, especially in politics, especially what's going on in the world, people just say, you're taking me out of context. It's not that I'm wrong. You're just not hearing me right. Why is that always the pushback? We have such a culture of people that are just so afraid to admit that they're wrong. I'm happy to admit when I say something stupid or I say something wrong. And I'm going to say stupid stuff all the time. Nobody comes to my podcast for a moral figure to follow. I don't think anyone should follow anyone in a moral way. Like, I don't think people should look up to other people. If you're a Christian, you should look up to Jesus, not me, period. While the statement referenced by Will could have been stated more clearly, Elmbrook official position is that it does not tolerate discrimination on a basis of race or any other protected class. The district said, Will's attempt to divide our community is wrong. Yeah. Even though they're being called out, they're like, hey, what you're trying to do to our community is wrong, and we'll call up upon Will and cease with meritless accusations, even though it's completely true. And then we have you in, this woman, her statement is clear as day. The student's race, sexual orientation, and social economic status are what are considered to be a majority status, and thus does not form a basis of claiming that the student is being treated or has been treated less favorably than persons not in the protected class. She's literally saying that he is not a protected student. He's not in the protected class, and so therefore she can treat him this way. And then she's saying, oh, you're taking me out of context. No, we're just reading what you wrote. And that's part of the vagueness of her statement anyways, is that she's like, because it's so vague, you can just take it however you want. But we know exactly what she's trying to say. And again, this is part of what's going on in this country on that side of the aisle, as more conservatives are waking up to this. Again, care about what your children are learning. Ask your children every single day when they come home from school, if you have kids, what did you learn today? Can I look at your homework? Can I see what's, especially in places like history class, like your sociology, like social studies class, your English class, not necessarily as much as your math class, unless your math teacher is saying 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, then that's a problem. But this is something you should look up and find out. So let me know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you guys watching this. Go on to the next.